Halloween, just past midnight. The streets are silent now, too silent. Once I loved this night, until the night it stopped loving me back. My name is Robert, 41, divorced, middle manager at a paper supply company. My house sits on the edge of Brookhaven, one of those tired suburban cul-de-sacs from the 90s, with beige siding and too many porch lights. Every home looks the same in daylight, and even more so after dark. I work too much, drink too much, sleep too little. Most evenings end the same, me on the couch. The TV washing the room in blue light, while unopened mail piles on the coffee table. But tonight is Halloween. It used to smell like sugar and smoke, like caramel apples cooling on wax paper, leaves crunching under pirate boots, pumpkins burning themselves hollow. Not anymore. Not since I was 8. That was the year Daniel went missing. Daniel lived 2 streets over a smaller house, a yard filled with broken bikes and rusted tools. He always wore hand-me-downs, his laugh too high, too quick, like he was afraid it might run out. We'd gone trick-or-treating out by the old quarry. We dared each other to go down the trail past the fence. I heard something that night, a sound that made my blood freeze. I ran. Daniel didn't. They never found him. The police searched the woods for days. Helicopters, dogs, flashlights sweeping through the trees. Nothing. The world moved on, but I didn't. Decades later, I'm still in Brooklyn. Different house, same ghosts. The only light in my living room comes from a TV marathon rolling its credits. Outside, porch lights blink out one by one. The neighborhood exhales into silence. My jack-o'-lantern flickers low on the porch, its grin sagging, one eye collapsed. I drift toward sleep, the hum of the TV like a lullaby. Then the doorbell rings. Just once, soft, almost polite. I jolt upright, heart hammering. The phone on the table glows, 12:07 a.m. No one should still be trick-or-treating. The bell rings again, longer this time, a sound that wants an answer. I sigh, grab the half-empty bowl of fun-sized candy from work, and shuffle toward the door. The house groans as I move. The air feels colder, heavier. Through the peephole, nothing. Just the flicker of the porch light and shadows shifting across the steps. Then a small shape moves at the edge of the glow. A child, perfectly still. The costume stops me cold. A pirate outfit, striped shirt, torn sleeve, red sash. Exactly like the one I wore when I was 8. The same tear, the same faded cloth. My throat tightens. The mask, cracked plastic with a smiling face, hides their features. Behind the eye holes, there's only blackness. I open the door halfway. The night air spills in, smelling of rot, wet leaves, old pumpkins, plastic. Hey there, I say, forcing cheer. You're out late, huh? The child didn't move. Then, in a hollow, mechanical voice, trick or treat. I drop candy into the bucket. The wrappers crinkle too loudly. There you go. Happy Halloween. The child tilts their head. The mask creaks. And then they whisper, "Thanks, Robert." The name lands like a blade. I laugh or try to. Guess your parents know me, huh? You live around here. No answer. Just the faint scrape of their shoes as they turn, walking away. Each step steady and deliberate. When they vanish into the dark, I close the door and lock it. It's a prank, I tell myself. Some kid. They've probably seen me before, heard my name. Nothing more. The movie's changed. Another slasher. Another mask. But the words echo in my head. Thanks, Robert. I pour a drink. Tell myself it's nothing. Then my phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. You shouldn't have left me. I froze. Another message follows. I waited at the quarry. The phone slips from my hand, cracks against the floor. The air turns colder. My breath fogs. I check every lock, every window. Still, something presses against the walls, like the house is holding its breath. A soft drip echoes from the kitchen. The faucet's off, yet water pools in the sink, murky, almost black. Floating in it is a single candy wrapper. Butter crisp, Daniel's favorite. And that's when I know this isn't a prank. I step outside. The air slices through my lungs. The porch light flickers once, twice, then steadies. The child is gone. But at the bottom of the steps lies the candy bucket. The faded orange kind from the 80s, scuffed and brittle. I lift it. It's cold, too heavy. Inside, Butter Crisps, Astro Pops, Charleston Chews. All opened, all empty. At the bottom, a Polaroid. 2 boys in pirate costumes. Me and Daniel. And in the background, a tall, blurred shadow standing just behind us. I drop the bucket. The photo sticks to my hand. Down the street, beneath the dying streetlight, the child stands again. Still watching, I whisper into the dark, "I'm sorry." The wind swallows the words. Somewhere in the distance, metal scrapes against pavement, slow, rhythmic, like a bucket being dragged. I bolt the door, retreat to the basement, the one place I never go. The air is thick, stale, electric. Under a dusty sheet, an old storage bin waits. I don't remember bringing it here. Inside, a baseball glove, drawings, school photos. And at the bottom, a pirate costume. My pirate costume. Except the tear in the sleeve is fresh, and the fabric smells of wet leaves and smoke. Above me, footsteps, soft, small, moving toward the kitchen. I climb the stairs, heart pounding. The TV flickers, spitting static. In the reflection, a shape moves behind me. I turn. The child stands in the doorway, mask tilted, bucket in hand. The porch light flashes once, painting the grin across the room. "You forgot me," the voice says. My throat tightens. "Daniel." The figure nods once. Then the mask cracks, a fine split down the middle, and opens. Inside, nothing. Only shifting black, deep as the quarry. I stumble back. The bucket spills, candy scattering, turning to dust before it hits the carpet. You ran, the voice hisses, coming from everywhere at once. You left me there. I was a kid, I cry. I didn't know. The lights flicker violently. The house groans, stretching like it's breathing. From the darkness beneath the mask, two small hands reach out, cold and wet, grabbing my wrists. Now it's your turn. When I woke up, sunlight seeps through the blinds. The house is quiet. For a heartbeat, I think it was a dream. Then I saw the footprints, small, muddy, leading from the front door to the couch. Beside them sits the candy bucket, empty again. The TV glows with a paused frame, an old home video. Two kids in pirate costumes laugh. One runs ahead, the other follows. The tape freezes. The boy in front, me, turns toward the camera and whispers something. I lean closer and the static clears. Don't forget me. I grab my keys, open the door, and freeze. The street is gone. Only fog remains, thick and endless. Shapes move in it. Children in masks, carrying empty buckets. Their voices merge into one ceaseless chant. Trick or treat. I slam the door, rush to the back window. Same fog, same faces. Some I recognize, some I almost do. The air smells like plastic and soil. The TV flickers again. This time it's live. The camera shows my porch. The child Daniel stands there, holding out the bucket. And behind him, another figure steps into frame. Me, older, wearing the same coat I'm wearing now. Watching, I turn slowly toward the window. My reflection isn't alone. Someone stands behind me. I open my mouth to scream, but only the wind escapes. And then the voice whispers, soft, almost kind. Now you'll never forget. I used to think bravery meant not making a sound. Mom said monsters couldn't find you if you were quiet enough. So when the dark came, I didn't scream, didn't call out. I just pulled my turtle nightlight closer, the green shell glowing soft against the wall, and tried to match my breathing to its rhythm. In, out, in, out. My room wasn't big, just a bed, a dresser, a closet that always looked a little open no matter how hard I pushed the door. Toys filled every corner, but at night they turned strange. The stuffed rabbit on the chair hunched like it was listening. The toy truck's headlights caught the glow and looked like eyes. The radiator hummed under the window, a low, steady sound that filled the quiet. Sometimes it popped, like something knocking from the inside. The wind outside liked to join in, pressing against the window pane until it creaked, then letting go with a sigh. That night, the air felt thicker. The blanket smelled like dust and something faintly sweet, like warm breath. I pulled it over my head even though I was sweating a little. The fabric made a tiny whisper when I moved, a hiss that sounded almost alive. Just the wind, I whispered. Just the wind. But then the blanket pulsed. Just once, soft, like someone's chest rising under it. I froze, counting in my head. Maybe I'd moved. Maybe my heartbeat made it shift. I stayed still for a long time. Long enough that my arms started to itch, and my nose tickled from the heat trapped inside. Then it happened again. This time slower, deeper, a full inhale that pressed the blanket gently against my back, then a sigh that brushed my neck. Something was breathing with me. I tried to tell myself it was my imagination. Maybe the blanket was settling from the heat. Maybe the radiator made the air move. I peeked out, just a sliver, and the turtle light glowed on the ceiling, green and soft. Everything looked normal: toys, shadows. The closet still cracked open like always. But the air under the blanket had weight now, warmth that wasn't mine. When I pulled it tighter, it didn't fold easily. It resisted, as if something inside it had shape. I whispered, "Stop." The fabric pressed closer. My chest thudded, loud enough that I could feel it through the mattress. I counted again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and between the beats, another rhythm answered. Slower, heavier, not mine. I thought about calling for Mom, but the room felt thick with listening. If I spoke too loud, I felt sure something would answer back. Then came the sound, in, out, right by my ear. Soft, wet, human. I yanked the blanket down to my chin. The fabric moved with me, but slower, like it had to think about it first. The turtle light flickered. Shadows stretched, bending long across the wall. The blanket twitched again, then stilled. I waited. Nothing. Maybe I'd dreamed it. My eyelids felt heavy. My body was still trembling, but maybe if I just slept. Something warm touched my ankle. Not a hand, not really, more like a mouth made of cloth. The blanket drew tight, wrapping around my leg. I kicked, but it pulled harder. I screamed then, a sharp noise that ripped the air open. The blanket loosened just enough for me to scramble free. My bare feet hit the floor, cold and sticky with sweat. The turtle light blinked once and went out. For a moment, there was only the radiator's hum and my own gasping breath. Then, the sound of fabric dragging, slow and heavy, across the mattress. It was moving. I backed toward the door, but the toys underfoot made the floor groan. Every sound felt too loud. I could almost hear the blanket listening. When I reached for the doorknob, the metal was cold, almost wet. My hand slipped. From behind me came a whisper, the sound of a sheet inhaling. I turned. In the dim light leaking through the hall crack, I saw it, the blanket rising. Its middle swelled gently, folding and unfolding like lungs. Threads rippled beneath the surface, muscles shifting under fabric. The faint, sweet smell filled the air again, like sugar left too long in the sun. I bolted. The hall light flicked on the moment I opened the door, and the noise of it, that safe, bright click, felt like salvation. I looked back just once. The blanket had fallen limp, a harmless pile of cloth. Mom came running, her robe dragging behind her. Eli, what happened? I couldn't speak. My throat was locked. I just pointed. She checked the bed, lifted the blanket, shook it. Honey, there's nothing here. You had a bad dream. It breathed, I whispered. It breathed. Dad appeared, hair messy, blinking against the light. You're okay, buddy. Come on, back to bed. But I didn't want to. I couldn't. The sight of that blanket in her hands, limp and innocent, made something crawl under my skin. I watched it carefully as she spread it again over the bed. There, she said softly. See, nothing to be afraid of. She kissed my forehead and left the door open a crack. The light from the hallway drew a warm stripe across the floor. I stared at it until my eyes burned. The hum of the radiator came back. The shadows leaned long again. And then, as I drifted somewhere between awake and asleep, I heard the faintest exhale. The next morning, sunlight filled the room like nothing had ever happened. The blanket lay still, folded neatly. Mom had changed the sheets, humming to herself. I wanted to tell her to throw it away, but she said it was my favorite one, the soft one Grandma made. Don't you remember? She asked. You wouldn't sleep without it. I didn't remember. At breakfast, I kept staring at the laundry basket where she dropped it. Every time I blinked, I imagined it shifting, the folds breathing faintly. That afternoon, I went to Mrs. Larkin's house next door. She was old, always feeding birds, always smelling like cedar and smoke. She noticed me staring at the flapping sheets on her clothesline. You ever think about what happens when we sleep under things that breathe? She said suddenly, like she'd been reading my mind. I froze. What? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Old fabrics remember warmth. The longer they keep it, the more they want it back. I ran home after that, heart hammering. That night, I begged Mom to let me sleep on the couch. She laughed, said, You're too old to be scared of blankets. I didn't answer. When she tucked me in again, I could smell that same sweetness in the air. Not from the blanket now, from her hands. The house went quiet, except for the wind and the radiator's slow groan. The hall light flicked off. My nightlight glowed faintly green, its turtle shell pattern spreading across the walls like underwater ripples. I lay still, eyes wide, staring at the ceiling. Then the bed dipped beside me, just a little, like someone had sat down. My breath hitched. I didn't move. I couldn't. The dip deepened, weight pressing against my side, slow and deliberate. The fabric around my chest tightened again, drawing closer. Mom, I whispered. No answer, just warmth, spreading over me, a pulse beneath the cloth. The whispering sound began a fabric sliding softly against skin. My blanket wrapped higher, brushing my cheek. I tried to throw it off, but it clung to me like wet paper. Every tug met resistance, a weight that pulsed with each heartbeat, not just mine. Then the smell, that faint, sugary breath, filled my nose. I gagged. The blanket shifted, pulling over my face. Darkness closed in hot and smothering. I could feel the air moving inside it, in and out, brushing against my lips like someone's mouth. I screamed again, muffled inside the breathing dark. Hands tore the blanket away. Light flooded my vision. Mom stood there, shaking me, shouting my name. "It's just a dream," she cried. "You're safe." But when she looked down at the blanket crumpled between us, her face changed. For a second, I saw her flinch, saw her eyes widen like she'd felt it move. Then she blinked, forced a smile, and said, "See, it's fine." They let me sleep in their room after that. Dad laughed about it, but Mom didn't. I caught her staring at the blanket later that night, folded neatly at the foot of my bed. She touched it once, like testing for breath. When she came to bed, she didn't say a word. I woke to a soft sound, in, out, in, out. The room was dark, except for the faint glow of the alarm clock. My parents' breathing filled the space, steady and slow. Then something else joined it. From the foot of their bed came a low sigh, gentle and warm. I sat up, heart pounding. The sound came again, a whisper of fabric shifting. Mom stirred beside me. "Eli, go back to sleep." I wanted to. I tried. But my eyes were locked on the foot of the bed, where the outline of their blanket rose and fell with its own quiet rhythm. The smell, that same sweet, dusty scent, drifted through the air. Mom turned in her sleep, and the blanket pulled tighter around her, just like it had done to me. "Mom," I whispered. The blanket exhaled. She sighed, smiling faintly in her sleep, as the fabric rippled like something alive beneath it. And then silence. The room held its breath. I didn't move. I just watched the shape beneath the blanket still and settle. The radiator hummed again. The wind pressed at the window. The turtle nightlight in my room blinked faintly from down the hall. Somewhere inside the dark folds, something breathed out one last time. Mom says I should stop recording this, but I can't. I have to keep track. I have to remember what I heard, what it said. If something happens to me, someone needs to know about the baby monitor. This is Jamie. I'm 10. And this is the last night I'm sleeping with it on. I started recording this 3 nights ago. Mom thinks it's because I like pretending to be a detective. Dad laughs and says I'm trying to scare myself before Halloween. But I'm not pretending. I just want proof. Our house isn't old or anything. It's just normal white walls, too much carpet, and a smell that always feels like laundry detergent and baby lotion. Rosie's room is across the hall from mine, and every night before bed, Mom leaves her door open just a crack. The star projector she bought makes little constellations crawl across the ceiling, all slow and sleepy. When the light moves, the shadows move too. Sometimes it looks like the ceiling is breathing. From my bed, I can see the red light on the baby monitor. It's supposed to blink when Rosie cries, but sometimes it blinks even when she's asleep. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. Then I started hearing things. It began with small noises, the kind of sounds a house makes when it's settling. But this wasn't that. It was softer, lower, almost like someone whispering right next to the mic. I'd turn up the volume, thinking maybe it was Rosie babbling in her sleep. But then I'd hear something like a click, like someone turning the microphone on. And then nothing. Just the hum of static, like breathing. Mom told me baby monitors pick up radio waves from neighbors' houses sometimes. Maybe that's true. But what neighbor sings the same lullaby backward? The first night, I woke up around 2 a.m. because the red light on the monitor wasn't blinking, it was pulsing. Slow, steady, like a heartbeat. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and reached for it. The hum was louder than usual, and beneath it, something faint. A voice, not a clear one, more like someone whispering underwater. Jamie. I froze. I wanted to believe I'd imagined it, but the voice came again. Jamie, come look. I held my breath. Rosie didn't cry. The lullaby wasn't playing. But I could hear movement, the soft rustle of fabric, the tiny creak of the crib. I should have run to Mom. I should have. But my body moved before I thought. I tiptoed across the hallway, every board under my feet groaning like it was warning me to stop. Rosie was asleep, perfectly still. Her chest rose and fell beneath the blanket. The star lights made her face glow, peaceful and blue. For a second, I felt silly. I reached for the monitor camera to check if it was maybe glitching. That's when I saw it, on the wall behind her crib. The shadow of something leaning over her. It wasn't mine. I wasn't moving. When the light flickered, it vanished. I grabbed Rosie's tiny hand, and she stirred, mumbling softly. I whispered her name, but before I could pick her up, the lullaby started again, only now it was backwards. Every note twisted and wrong, like something was pulling the sound apart. The red light blinked, once, twice, then it went completely dark. I didn't tell anyone until morning. Mom laughed and said I probably had a nightmare. Dad said I needed to stop reading scary stories online. But when I showed them the monitor, it was hot, like it had been running all night, even though it was off. Dad replaced the batteries and said that'd fix it. That night, I left my phone recording. At 3:17 a.m., the recording caught something. I've listened to it 100 times. First comes static, then the lullaby, then Rosie's little cooing noises. Then, about 30 seconds in, a second coo lower, slower, echoing hers perfectly. After that, a whisper. She's not alone. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the floor with the door open, watching the monitor flicker. Every so often, I'd see movement, not in Rosie's crib, but behind it, like a dark shape swaying just out of reach. The air smelled weird too. Not like the usual baby lotion, but like metal like someone had rubbed pennies between their hands. Last night was the worst. Mom and Dad were asleep downstairs after a late movie. I was supposed to be asleep too, but I kept the monitor next to my bed. Around midnight, I woke to the click sound again, the one that means someone turned the mic on. I whispered into it, "Who's there?" The static stopped. Then a whisper so close it made my skin crawl. "You said you'd protect her." I dropped the monitor. My heart was pounding. I picked it back up, but it was warm, too warm to touch. I could see the red light pulsing like a heartbeat again. I tried to call for Mom, but my voice caught. I don't know why, but I couldn't move. It felt like something was waiting for me to speak again. On the other end, the whisper changed deeper now, almost like two voices speaking at once. "She's waking up." The sound of the crib moving came through slow, creaking wood. Then Rosie started crying, loud and terrified. I ran across the hall. The smell hit me first. That metallic tang, stronger this time. Rosie was sitting up, crying so hard her little face was red. The shadows on the wall were all wrong, long and twisting, like they were reaching toward her. The projector light flickered, and for a split second, I saw it. Something was standing over the crib, tall, bent at the middle, its hands stretched long and thin like wires. No face, just a blur where one should have been. Its head tilted toward Rosie, then toward me. The projector flashed again, just once, and it was gone. I grabbed Rosie and ran. I didn't even look back. The monitor fell, hit the floor, and shattered. The lullaby kept playing, warped and broken, echoing through the hall until Mom came running. Mom said I was just dreaming again. She didn't see anything when she checked the nursery. She held me until I stopped shaking, but when she went back to bed, I saw her pick up the pieces of the monitor and take them downstairs. She didn't plug it in again after that. The next morning, Rosie was fine, laughing, giggling like nothing ever happened. But when I went into her room, the star projector wasn't on, and the air still smelled faintly metallic. I touched the crib railing. It was cold. Mom said she ordered a new monitor, one with a camera that connects to her phone. I begged her not to, told her it wasn't safe. She frowned and said, "Jamie, it's just technology. It can't hurt you." But when she threw the old one into the trash bin outside, I heard something rattle inside it, like a small stone rolling back and forth. Later that night, when everyone was asleep, I went out with a flashlight. I know I shouldn't have, but I needed to be sure. The monitor was still there. The screen was cracked, but the red light, it was blinking. Slow, steady, like a heartbeat. That was 5 years ago. Rosie's 4 now. She doesn't remember anything, not that I'd tell her if she did. I'm 15, and Mom lets me babysit when she and Dad go out. Rosie's still got her same room, though everything's different now. New paint, new toys, and a new monitor they barely use. It's the same model as the one Mom bought back then, but this one has a camera that connects to my phone. she says it's safer. Everything's digital now, she laughs. Tonight, Rosie's asleep early. I'm sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone. The house is quiet, too quiet. Then I heard it, the lullaby, soft, familiar, coming from upstairs. At first, I think it's Rosie's music box, but when I check, it's off. The sound's not in her room, it's above it. In the attic. My chest tightens. I climb the ladder slowly, the wood creaking under my feet. The air up there is thick, dusty, but beneath it, something else. That smell, metallic, old. In the corner, under a sheet of plastic, is a box. Inside the box, the old monitor. It's still broken, screen cracked, casing melted a little around the buttons. But the red light is blinking again. I pick it up, and it's cold, colder than anything should be. The lullaby stops. Then, in the static, Jamie. I drop it, stumbling back. My phone, still in my hand, vibrates a notification from the new baby monitor app. Camera activated. Rosie's room. I open it. Rosie's asleep in her crib, tiny and perfect. But in the corner of the screen, the shadows move, slowly bending, stretching toward her. And then, for just a second, before the feed cuts out, I see my own reflection in the lens. But it's not me. It's smiling, static building, then a faint whisper. Don't stop recording. My name is Alina Morales. I used to check my phone just to feel close to him. The unread messages, the photos, the tiny green dot that meant he was online. But it's been a year since Daniel died, and last night, he texted me. This isn't a story about ghosts. It's about what's left of them in us, in our devices, in the things we refuse to delete. It was raining again, the kind of steady, soft rain that turns the world into static. Midnight had come and gone, but I was still awake, lying in a bed too big for one person. Daniel used to say rain made everything sound closer. I used to love that. Now it just made the house feel smaller, like sound had nowhere else to go. The glow from my phone was the only light in the room. I scrolled through old messages, rereading the same thread I'd backed up a dozen times. I'd deleted everything else after the accident, the photos of the crash, the sympathy texts, but never his. Our last conversation was short. Daniel, almost home. Want me to grab milk? Me no, come home. Just come home. He never answered. The police said the rain made the roads slick. I told them he wasn't the type to speed, but grief makes you argue with facts. I kept the thread pinned to the top of my screen like a shrine. That night, the air felt heavy. His jacket hung over the chair beside the bed, faintly smelling of cologne, sandalwood, and something warm. I breathed it in like medicine. I should have been asleep. I had work in the morning. But I was scrolling through old photos again, letting the ache settle in. The phone warmed in my hand, and then a sound I hadn't heard in a year. Ping. A new message. From Daniel. I froze. The screen pulsed faintly, the familiar gray chat bubble sliding into view. Daniel, are you awake? I sat up so fast the bed creaked. My brain scrambled for logic. Maybe someone hacked his number. Maybe the phone company recycled it. But my heart didn't care. My heart believed. Me, who is this? 3 dots appeared. The typing bubbles. They came and went, pausing, starting again, like breathing. Daniel, you kept my jacket. I dropped the phone. It hit the sheets with a dull thud. My breath hitched. My eyes flicked toward the chair. The jacket hadn't moved, but the room suddenly felt colder. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe a cruel prank. Maybe some data glitch pulling old fragments of text. But Daniel had never sent that message. I would have remembered. I picked up the phone again. My fingers shook as I typed. Me, this isn't funny. Daniel's gone. The bubbles appeared again, slowly this time. Daniel, I know. The screen dimmed slightly, as if the phone was breathing too. I could hear rain pattering against the window, syncing with the tiny vibrations of each incoming text. Daniel, I miss you. Tears blurred my vision before I even realized I was crying. Stop, I whispered, though I wasn't sure if I wanted it to stop. Me, who are you? How do you know these messages? No reply. Just the soft ping of another message restoring itself. One I had deleted months ago. The thread began to move on its own, scrolling upward, bringing back erased messages line by line. Daniel, love you. Be home soon. Me, drive safe. The rain outside grew heavier, tapping faster against the window like knuckles. I watched the phone rebuild what I'd destroyed. Every word, every emoji, every timestamp. Then it went further. New messages appeared. From Daniel, the road's dark tonight. I almost missed the turn. There's someone on the road. I hadn't seen those before. They were time-stamped 1 minute after his final real text. My throat tightened. No, I whispered, voice breaking. That's not possible. The power flickered. For a heartbeat, the phone screen was the only thing in existence. A blue glow against the black. A new message appeared slowly, like someone typing each word with hesitation. Daniel, I didn't make it home, did I? I stared at the screen until the words blurred. The phone buzzed again, harder this time, like a heartbeat in my hand. I pressed my thumb to the microphone icon and whispered, Daniel, if that's you, I can't do this again. The phone warmed, then vibrated once more. A voice message. I hesitated, pressed play. Static at first, then faint breathing. A soft exhale through the speaker. Elena. It was him. The voice I hadn't heard since the funeral, trembling with static, but undeniably his. I'm still trying to come home. The message ended with a click. I dropped the phone onto the bed and clutched my chest, sobbing. Stop, please stop. But the typing bubbles returned. Don't cry. I can see you. The phone's front camera light blinked once. Just a flicker, but I saw it. I covered the lens with my thumb. You're not him, I whispered. You're not. Then another message appeared, no sound, no notification. Just there. Daniel, check the window. My stomach knotted. I didn't want to. I knew better. But grief is a kind of gravity. I turned. Outside, through rain-streaked glass, the driveway was empty. Just the glow of the streetlight and the ghost of my own reflection. Then the reflection smiled. I wasn't smiling. The phone buzzed again. Another message. Daniel, let me in. I backed away from the bed, shaking. No, this isn't real. My phone slipped from my hands and hit the floor. The screen cracked, light leaking through the glass like veins. The rain grew louder, almost pounding now. The typing bubbles reappeared one last time, and my voice, my own voice, whispered through the speaker. Elena, open the door. The sound didn't come from the phone anymore. It came from the hallway. I stood frozen, the air thick with the smell of rain, and something else, ozone maybe, or metal. The hallway light flickered. I could see the front door's outline, the faint shadow beneath it. Someone was standing there. The knob turned slowly, just enough to make the latch click. No, I whispered, backing toward the bedroom again. You're gone. You're gone. My phone buzzed one final time, even with the screen cracked and dark. The vibration stopped, then started again, pulsing in rhythm with the soft knocking at the door. I pressed my hands to my ears. Then silence. I waited, counting my heartbeats. 1, 2, 3. A single text appeared on the broken screen, glowing faintly through the spiderweb of cracks. From Daniel, you said come home. The phone went black. I woke to sunlight pouring through the window. The rain had stopped. My phone lay dead on the floor. For a moment, I thought it had all been a dream. I plugged it into the charger. The familiar buzz of life came back. The home screen looked normal, no messages, no thread, no missed calls. Everything was fine. I made coffee, opened the windows, told myself it was grief, a storm, exhaustion, maybe too much wine and nostalgia. But when I opened the deleted messages folder, something waited there. A draft I didn't remember writing. Just one line. I'm home now. Sent from Daniel's number. When I moved into apartment 3A, the walls were already breathing. I thought it was the pipes, the neighbors, maybe the city itself rotting from the inside. But after a while, the smell started following me, and I realized you can't outrun what's already inside you. The apartment was cheap. That was its main appeal. 3A sat at the end of a long, narrow hall that smelled faintly like boiled cabbage and damp carpet. I signed the lease with the kind of optimism that only comes after hitting rock bottom. The divorce papers were barely dry. My drinking had turned into a hobby I could no longer afford, and the only person who'd answer my calls was my sponsor, and he sounded tired of me too. The superintendent, a man named Frank with nicotine stains on his fingers, handed me the keys and said, "Don't mind the walls. They creak when it rains." It wasn't raining that day, but the walls were already groaning, like something old trying to remember how to stand. Inside, the unit was small but serviceable single window, linoleum peeling near the fridge, bathroom door that didn't close all the way. A single vent sat above the bed, humming low, like it was breathing through its teeth. I unpacked what little I owned. A futon, some dishes, a box of old photos I didn't look at anymore, divorce souvenirs. For a while it felt fine, quiet. Then I noticed the smell. It started faint. A trace of something stale under the cleaner I'd used on the counters. It wasn't unpleasant at first, like a room where someone had cooked fish a few days ago. I shrugged it off. The building was old. Old buildings had smells. But the next morning, it was stronger, sweet, and chemical, like spoiled fruit soaked in nail polish remover. I checked the fridge. Empty. Trash taken out. Sink drain clean enough. Still, it lingered. I told myself it was from next door. Apartment 3B, maybe. That guy cooked weird stuff. I could hear his microwave beep through the wall at odd hours, and sometimes the smell of onions and vinegar seeped in. I opened a window, sprayed air freshener, lit one of those candles my ex used to like. The kind that pretends to smell like ocean breeze, but really smells like chemicals and guilt. For a while it helped. Then that night it came back, thicker, closer, like something warm and wet had been left behind the wall. The hall outside my apartment was almost always empty. People here didn't talk, they watched. Doors cracked open just enough for one eye. I caught a whiff of the same smell out there too, that sweet rot, and felt relief. Proof it wasn't just me. Down the hall, an old woman shuffled out with a bag of trash. I forced a smile. "Hey, do you smell that? Something weird, kind of." She didn't answer, just stared past me with those milky eyes and muttered, "It's always been here." Then she dragged her bag toward the stairwell. I caught a glimpse of it, dark liquid leaking through the plastic, dotting the carpet like coffee stains. When I went back inside, the smell seemed stronger than ever. That night, I woke to a faint sound, drip. The kitchen faucet had been steady earlier, but now a droplet hung at its lip, trembling before falling. I tightened the handle. The sound stopped for about 10 seconds, then started again. Behind the steady rhythm, something else hummed, a soft vibration coming from the vent above my bed. I climbed up and pressed my ear against the grill. There was buzzing, not electrical, organic, flies maybe. I told myself maybe something had died in the ducts. a mouse, a bird. Buildings like this always hid corpses somewhere. But when I mentioned it to Frank the next day, he just waved his cigarette. "You get used to it," he said. "Don't go messing with the vents. They're old. Whole things wired weird." That night, the buzzing grew louder. I started sleeping with the window open, even though the city outside reeked of exhaust and wet pavement. It didn't help. The smell clung to me now, to my clothes, my sheets, my hair. The vent hummed softly above me, its grill coated in gray dust. I dragged a chair over and stood on it. Up close, the smell was unbearable, sweet, almost syrupy, like fruit left too long in the sun. The metal was warm. I pressed my finger against one of the screws and felt something sticky. When I pulled my hand back, there was a smear of brown across my fingertip. It looked like rust, smelled like something else. I washed my hands 3 times, but I swear I could still feel it. The man in 3B introduced himself one night when I was taking the trash out. He had the kind of grin that didn't reach his eyes. "You new here?" "Few weeks," I said. "Yeah," he replied, lighting a cigarette. "You'll get used to the smell." I stared at him. "You smell it too." He blew smoke toward the ceiling. "Everyone does. Management paints over it. Doesn't work." "What is it?" He shrugged. "Maybe a dead rat. Maybe a dead tenant. Same difference." He laughed softly and went back inside. When I returned to my apartment, the smell hit me like a wall. It was worse than ever. I started blaming everything but the obvious. The pipes, the wiring, the carpet, my own breath. I stopped inviting anyone over. Not that I had many friends left anyway. My sponsor stopped answering texts. My ex sent me a message that said, "You need to get help, Caleb." I deleted it without reading the rest. I cleaned the apartment daily, bleach, lemon spray, incense. But no matter what I did, the scent came back heavier, thicker, until the air itself felt syrupy. The vent buzzed. Sometimes at night, I swore I heard faint laughter from inside it, muffled, childish, like someone playing far away. I told myself I was imagining it, but I started to dream of the vent, of warm air breathing across my face, of whispering voices calling my name from inside the metal. A stain appeared above my bed, small at first, the color of weak tea. I hadn't noticed it until a drop hit my cheek in the night. I wiped it away, thinking it was condensation. Then another drop fell. The stain had spread darker now, nearly black at the center. I moved my bed across the room. In the morning, the stain had followed. Not the same mark, a new one, directly above where my pillow now rested. The buzzing inside the vent deepened to a low hum, like an animal breathing just behind the metal. I called Frank again. He said he'd send maintenance. No one came. That night, the smell was unbearable. I started packing. Not everything, just enough to make me feel in control. I filled a few boxes with my old things, clothes, dishes, Those photographs from my marriage I'd never thrown out. I taped the boxes shut and stacked them by the door. The smell should have faded then. The trash was gone. The vents were closed. The windows open wide. But it didn't. It got worse. When I lay in bed, it felt like the air itself was curdling inside my lungs. My stomach twisted. My eyes watered. The sweet, rotting scent filled my throat until I wanted to scream. Then came the sound. A slow scrape. Something moving inside the vent. By the time I decided to open the vent, I hadn't slept properly in days. My eyes stung. My hands trembled. I told myself I'd just prove it, find whatever was causing it, call Frank, get it fixed. I found a small screwdriver in my kitchen drawer and dragged the chair over again. The metal grill was slick with grime. I turned the first screw. It came loose with a squeal. The second resisted. As I twisted harder, something behind the vent shifted, a wet rustle, like fabric sliding over skin. I froze. The hum stopped. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Then, just faintly, from behind the wall, drip, drip, I tore the grill away. Darkness waited behind it. Not wires, not ducts, just a narrow gap filled with shadow and the faintest glint of something wet. The smell hit full force. I gagged and stumbled back. My eyes watered. I forced myself to look closer. Nothing, just emptiness. But the buzzing started again, louder this time. I dropped the vent cover and ran out of the apartment. I left the next morning. Didn't even call Frank. I packed the boxes into my car and drove to a new place across town, smaller, brighter, with no smell. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. When the movers came to take the rest, one of them, a kid with tattoos, wrinkled his nose. "Hey, man," he said, "you got something dead in here." I laughed. "No, just old trash. The building was." Then I smelled it. Faint, but there. That same sweet chemical rot. The kid pointed to one of the boxes in the trunk. "It's coming from that one." I frowned. It was the box with my photos. I opened it right there in the parking lot. Inside were my old wedding pictures, warped, stuck together, edges curled from moisture. They were wet, not just damp, slick, almost slimy. A brown, oily liquid pooled at the bottom of the box. The smell hit me so hard I had to turn away and gag. The movers stepped back, murmuring something about calling pest control. But I just stared at the photos. In one, I was smiling beside my ex, holding a drink. In another, the same living room that had seen 1,000 fights. I flipped through them, my house, my dog, my face. And everywhere, the edges had darkened, rotted, eaten away like the pictures were decomposing. The liquid soaked through the cardboard, staining my fingers. When I wiped them on my jeans, they left brown streaks that smelled just like the vent. And that's when I understood. The smell hadn't been coming from the walls. It had been coming from me. From everything I refused to throw away. I moved again a few weeks later. Smaller place, clean, quiet. No smell, except sometimes at night when the air conditioner kicks on. I swear I hear a faint buzz. And in the vents, behind the hum, a soft, wet drip. I tell myself it's just the pipes, but every time I close my eyes, I see those warped photographs, slick with that brown rot, and I wonder if I ever really left that apartment, or if it followed me here. Claire Reynolds had been babysitting for extra cash since college. She wasn't superstitious or easily rattled, not the type to jump at creaks or half-heard noises. The Walkers were a respectable couple, neat, polite, the kind of people who apologized if the TV remote didn't have fresh batteries. Their house was quiet and tastefully decorated. Everything had a curated symmetry to it, the same soft lighting, the same faint lemon-scented polish. It was too still when the parents left, as if the silence had been tucked in neatly along with the baby upstairs. Lily was only 6 months old, a light sleeper, and her nursery looked like a magazine photo spread, white crib, pink blankets, toys arranged just so. The only thing out of place was the mirror. It stood in the corner opposite the crib, an antique vanity mirror framed in dark wood, its glass slightly warped, the silver backing aged to a faint ripple. Mrs. Walker had mentioned it briefly before leaving. "Oh, the mirror's decorative," she'd said, voice casual but clipped. "Came with the house. Don't move it, it's heavier than it looks." Claire hadn't thought much about it at first. But later, after Lily had fallen asleep, and the house settled into that strange hush unique to late nights in other people's homes, the mirror began to feel wrong. The first time she noticed, it was around 9. She'd gone in to check on Lily, to make sure the monitor's faint green light was still blinking, and she happened to glance at her own reflection. It blinked too late, half a second, maybe less, but definitely late. She tested it, raising one hand. The reflection followed, but slightly behind. Her heartbeat jumped. She told herself it was just the lighting or the warped glass. She touched the surface. It buzzed faintly, static, like touching an old TV screen. The glass was cold, far colder than the rest of the room, as if a vent were blowing chilled air straight through it. She backed away, telling herself she was overtired. She'd been working nights and cramming for grad school exams. Her mind was making shadows out of nothing. But when she returned downstairs, she couldn't shake the feeling of eyes pressing against her back. An hour later, the baby monitor crackled. At first, she thought it was interference. But then came a sound that froze her blood, her own voice, humming. She'd been humming earlier, softly, to calm Lily. But this wasn't that. The voice was slower, like someone remembering the tune and playing it back imperfectly. Claire climbed the stairs, pulse hammering. The nursery door was shut. She was sure she'd left it that way, but a faint glow spilled from under it. When she opened the door, Lily was asleep, breathing evenly. The monitor sat silent on the dresser. Everything looked normal except the mirror. The glass shimmered faintly in the lamplight, as though light were moving beneath the surface. Her reflection looked back at her, perfectly still. Too still. Then it smiled. Claire's breath caught. She hadn't smiled. Her reflection's mouth curved slowly upward, like paint drying in real time. Then it froze again, neutral, as if nothing had changed. She fled the room and shut the door. She called her friend Jen, explained it, half laughing, half shaking. Jen told her she'd been watching too many horror shows, said old mirrors could distort light in creepy ways. Maybe that should have helped, but Claire couldn't shake the cold crawling beneath her skin. She locked the nursery door and went back downstairs, leaving the TV on for noise. 10 minutes later, the screen went black on its own. Her reflection stared back, faintly lit by the TV's standby glow. Only she was sitting on the couch, but the reflection stood. Her stomach dropped. She turned around, heart racing. The window behind her reflected nothing. The TV screen still showed her standing. She turned it off. The reflection smiled again, brief, twitching. Then darkness swallowed the screen. By 11, she was pacing. The house's perfect symmetry now felt suffocating, its quiet deliberate. Every lamp cast twin shadows that leaned toward the mirrors and glass picture frames. She could swear the ticking wall clock had slowed, its rhythm out of sync with her own movements. Tick, pause, tick-tick. When the nursery light flicked on upstairs, Claire almost didn't go. But then Lily's soft coo came through the monitor again, followed by a faint whisper. Her whisper, "Look at me," it said. The words were unmistakable. Her own voice, only half a second late. Claire gripped the banister so tightly her knuckles went white. When she reached the nursery, her breath fogged the air, though the house thermostat read 72. The mirror's surface was misted over from the inside, and on it, pressed flat against the glass, was a perfect handprint, her handprint. The sound that followed was like metal bending under pressure, a faint creak that vibrated in her teeth. She backed out of the room and pulled the door closed, heart pounding. A metallic scent, sharp, coppery, filled her mouth. It grew stronger each second. Downstairs, the lights flickered. The baby monitor, unplugged, began to blink again. A whisper drifted through the speaker. The same lullaby voice, the same half-second delay. Her reflection's voice. Midnight. Claire couldn't reach the walkers. Every call failed, Wi-Fi dead. She walked from mirror to mirror, covering each with towels and blankets. The bathroom, the hallway, even the TV screen. But reflections kept appearing in the surfaces she missed. The oven door. A picture frames glass. The black eyes of a porcelain doll on the shelf. Everywhere she turned, she caught glimpses of herself, smiling faintly, mouth moving too slowly. In one moment of desperate hope, she tried smashing the vanity mirror with a stool. The blow landed hard enough to dent the wood, but the glass didn't crack. The sound it made wasn't glass breaking. It was like striking metal. The reflection flinched, actually flinched, then smiled wider. Her blood went cold. The glass began to shimmer again, pulsing faintly as if something behind it were breathing. Claire felt her own face grow numb. Each blink felt slower. Her movements felt delayed, as if her body were being copied by something that hadn't finished learning how to use it. She pressed her hand to her chest. Her heart was beating faster than her reflection. Then the reflection raised its hand and pressed it to the inside of the glass. Cold spread through the air, thick and heavy, and static crawled up her arm when their hands aligned. The surface flexed under her palm, soft for a moment, like warm water, and she stumbled backward, gasping. The lights in the nursery went out. Claire ran. She took Lily from the crib, held her close, and bolted down the stairs. The house was darker than before, the air thick enough to taste. She turned once and saw light leaking through the crack beneath the nursery door, flickering rhythmically, like someone pacing in front of the mirror. She locked herself in the living room and sat trembling on the couch. Lily slept peacefully in her arms. All around her, surfaces shimmered faintly. The blank TV screen, the glass in framed family photos, the window's reflection of the street outside. In each, she saw the same thing: herself, standing behind her reflection, just out of sync. Her reflection tilted its head, like it was studying her. Then it smiled. The smell of metal filled the room. At 2:35 a.m., the ticking clock stopped. The silence that followed was alive. The lights went dim. The house's hum vanishing into a low vibration that seemed to come from the mirrors themselves. From upstairs came a faint creak, the groan of bending glass. Claire turned toward the dark window and saw her reflection smiling a half-beat before she did. Her throat went dry. She backed away. A whisper brushed her ear, her own voice, calm and soft. "I'm fine now." She turned and saw herself standing where no reflection should be. Her mirror self was there, half lit by the streetlight through the window. Same clothes, same expression, but her eyes were black where the pupils should have been, her smile too wide. Claire froze. The double tilted her head almost kindly and whispered, "It's nice here." Then she stepped forward, and Claire's vision filled with cold light. The walkers returned at 3:10 a.m. Claire was asleep on the couch, baby unharmed in the playpen. The TV was off, the house perfectly still. Upstairs, the nursery mirror showed a single fogged handprint on the inside of the glass. Claire woke when they called her name. She said she didn't remember falling asleep. She looked pale but calm, smiled politely, and packed her things without a word about what had happened. She quit babysitting the next week. Friends noticed she seemed different after that night, quieter, more deliberate. When she laughed, it came a second too late, and every mirror she looked into after that seemed to smile first. My name is. It was Adrian something. I keep saying it out loud to make sure it still sounds real. If you're hearing this, don't forget me. Please. I think that's how it starts. People stop remembering your name. Then they stop seeing you. And then I don't think there's anything left to forget. This isn't a ghost story. It's about being erased while you're still alive. I woke up to sunlight cutting through the blinds like blades, slicing the room into pieces. The apartment looked like it always did after a party: cheap beer, plastic cups, makeup smeared into the couch fabric. I could smell latex from the half-peeled zombie mask on the floor. My own, I think. I checked my phone. Battery at 4%. Notifications exploding, messages, tags, videos. For once, I'd actually gone out instead of staying home. A Halloween party. Leela's place. I remember dancing or trying to, laughing. There was a group photo. I remember that part clearly because Leela had pulled me in close, saying, "You never smile, Adrian, come on, one real one." The first thing that felt wrong was the pictures. In every photo, my face was gone. Not scratched out or cropped. Just blurred, like someone dragged a finger through wet paint where I should have been. Everyone else looked fine. At first, I thought it was my camera glitching, but then I checked the ones Leela tagged me in. Same blur, same smear. I zoomed in, expecting to see maybe a motion blur, but the closer I looked, the more it pulsed, almost like static moving under the pixels. I laughed at first, said something out loud to the empty room. Guess my camera hates me. But hearing my voice echo felt strange, like it came from a second too far away. When I called Leela, she didn't answer. When I texted her, she replied, "Who's this?" By 10 a.m., I was dressed and heading to work. Still, half convinced it was a hangover thing, a glitch, whatever. The morning air smelled sharp, wet pavement, burnt coffee from the cafe downstairs. I tried to shake the unease, repeating my name under my breath like a password. Adrian Cole. It felt heavy in my mouth. At the office, everything looked painfully normal. The dull hum of computers, the click of keyboards. I walked past the front desk. "Morning," I said. The receptionist blinked. "Can I help you?" "It's me, Adrian, I work here." She looked at the monitor like she was checking something, frowned, and said, "Sorry, there's no one by that name on staff." My stomach dropped. I laughed it off again, too loud. Very funny. She didn't laugh. At my cubicle, someone else's things were there. Same desk, same chair, but a different nameplate. R. Pierce. I stared at it. R. Pierce. That was me, right? No, wait, no. name's Adrian. I checked my ID badge. It wasn't me. The photo showed a man who looked vaguely familiar, but not enough. Same build, maybe same eyes, but softer. The name read Richard Pierce. I blinked, and for half a second, I thought the picture smiled. That was the first time I noticed the glass reflections lagging, monitors, windows, even the shine on my coffee mug. My reflection didn't move right. It followed a beat too slow, like it was remembering what I did. I left before anyone could stop me. Not that anyone tried. Outside, the city felt louder, but distant, muffled through glass. I ducked into a coffee shop I'd been going to for years. The barista looked up with that automatic smile. "What can I get for you?" "Usual," I said. She frowned, and that is. "Americano, Adrian." "Right name for the cup." "Adrian." She scribbled something anyway, but when she handed me the cup, the name was gone. Just a wet smudge. In the mirrored case beside the counter, my reflection stared back, perfectly still. I lifted my hand. It didn't. For a moment, I couldn't move. Then a customer brushed past me, muttered, "Sorry," but their eyes slid over me like I wasn't there at all. The world kept moving without me. By noon, I was back in my apartment. I locked the door, checked every mirror. I told myself I'd figure this out, maybe dissociation, maybe some brain glitch, something I could reason through. The first thing I did was try to call my mother. Her number rang once, then went straight to voicemail. But the voice wasn't hers. "Hello, you've reached this number in error." I tried again, same thing. When I checked my contacts, Mom was gone. In fact, half my contacts were gone. The rest had no profile pictures, just gray silhouettes. Every photo I'd ever taken now had the same blur where my face should be. Even older ones from years ago. Even screenshots. My phone started to heat up in my hand, screen flickering like it was resisting something. Then a video notification popped up. Memories, 1 year ago today. I watched it. A short clip from last Halloween, me and Leela, drunk, laughing. Except this time, the video stuttered, glitched, and the laughter reversed. Her face warped, melted into static, and over the sound of reversed laughter, I heard a distorted voice. Mine. It said, "You shouldn't have stayed so long." The apartment lights flickered. My reflection in the dark TV screen smiled a second before I did. I turned every reflective surface to the wall, glass frames, the toaster, even the metal lamp base. My own face had become something untrustworthy. I felt numb, my hands buzzing like they weren't attached. When I touched my throat, my pulse skipped. Then it faded altogether. That's when I realized the air in the apartment had gone too still. I looked toward the window. The reflection on the glass wasn't empty anymore. Someone was standing behind me. I spun around. No one. But in the window's reflection, the figure didn't vanish. It stepped closer. I saw its outline, same height, same build, but its face was the blur from the photos, a human-shaped smudge. I stumbled backward, heart hammering even though I couldn't feel it beating. The reflection raised a hand and touched the glass. My phone camera clicked by itself. No flash, just the shutter sound. When I checked the screen, the photo showed my apartment empty, but the blur was standing right where I had been. Then the phone went dark. I don't remember leaving, only the sound of the door slamming and the cold air hitting my face. I ran until my lungs burned, until the streets blurred together. People brushed past, no one meeting my eyes. When I shouted for help, my voice echoed wrong, thin, hollow, like shouting down a tunnel. I ended up in a public restroom, splashing water on my face. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The mirror above the sink was spotted and dull, but I could still make out my shape. I whispered my name over and over. Adrian, Adrian. The reflection's mouth didn't move. I leaned closer. The surface looked wet, even though it was dry. My breath fogged it just enough to write 3 shaky letters, a DR. Then the fog cleared, wiping the letters away from the inside. The reflection smiled. I stumbled back so fast, I hit the stall door. Every mirror in the room flickered, the reflections moving faster now, overlapping, as if each one was trying to get out of sync. I bolted, pushing out into daylight that felt too bright, too flat. People passed, phones in hand, faces locked in their worlds, and not one of them looked at me. When I shouted again, no one even turned their heads. I walked right into a man in a suit, hard enough to knock his briefcase loose, and he didn't react. He just kept walking, eyes glazed. I checked my phone for proof I existed, messages, call logs, anything. But my number read unknown device. Every file, every note, every contact had been renamed. No data. It hit me then. Maybe the blur wasn't replacing me. Maybe it was me, the version that the world had chosen to keep. And this leftover version was just static. I went to the hospital. I don't know why I thought they'd help. Maybe because hospitals mean someone has to believe you. The receptionist smiled politely. Name: Adrian Cole. She typed, looked up. Sorry, could you spell that? I did, she frowned. There's no record of that name. I was here last year. Broke my wrist. Check your files. She shook her head. Sir, there's nothing under that name. I tried showing her my ID, but the photo was gone. Just a blank gray oval. She looked sorry for me. The way you look at someone talking nonsense on the street. Maybe you're confused. We can have someone from psych come down if you'd like. I wanted to scream, but the sound caught in my throat. A nurse appeared, said gently, "Come with me." She led me down a hallway lined with metal panels that reflected our shapes in broken fragments. My reflection lagged behind, a smear moving in slow waves. She brought me into a room, said she'd get a doctor. The bed sheets were white. The smell of antiseptic burned my nose, I tried to steady my breathing, counting the seconds. When she left, I turned toward the reflective panel beside the bed. At first, it showed nothing but glare. Then, slowly, the light dimmed, and I saw the shape of someone lying there. It was me, but not like I looked now. Healthier, clearer, with a real expression, scared, but alive. He blinked. I didn't. I raised my hand. He didn't follow. He just stared, eyes wide. Then he mouthed something I couldn't hear. I leaned closer, hand against the panel. His lips moved again. "You're the blur now." The glass rippled. The light in the room flickered once, then steadied. The panel reflected only the empty bed. Ethan Cole hated Halloween. Not passionately, not in the I'm above it way, more like he just didn't have the energy. Every year, his coworkers at the insurance office decorated their cubicles with plastic skeletons and orange tinsel, while he sat at his desk doing the same thing he always did, nodding through small talk, counting down the hours until he could go home. But this year, they cornered him. "Come on, Ethan," Marcy said, her vampire fangs clicking slightly when she grinned. "You never do anything. One drink. You can't skip again." He should have said no, but the tired smile on her face and the mock disappointment in the other's eyes wore him down. "Fine," he said, "but I'm not buying a costume." "Then rent one," someone said. "There's a shop downtown. Masquerade Memories. You can grab something cheap." He sighed. He figured it'd be a quick stop. 5 minutes tops. Masquerade Memories sat between a shuttered laundromat and a vape store that smelled like burnt strawberries. The sign above the shop flickered weakly in the drizzle, the M sputtering so it read, "Masquerade Memories." The window display was cluttered with old mannequins in cheap vampire cloaks and plastic armor that looked like it came from a dollar store. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets. The air smelled faintly of rubber and dust. Racks of costumes lined the narrow aisles, some still in plastic wrap, others hanging loose and limp. A teenager with purple hair sat behind the counter, scrolling her phone, barely looking up. "Hey," Ethan said, "You, still open?" "Till 9, she said, not moving her eyes from the screen. "You can try something on if you want. Dressing room S in the back." He wandered through the aisles. Pirates, zombies, clowns, everything either ridiculous or ripped. He was about to give up when something caught his eye, a full-body suit hanging at the end of the rack. Dark gray, almost black, sleek and smooth like latex, but softer. No label, no price tag. Just a simple tag pinned to the shoulder, the second skin. He chuckled under his breath. Subtle. Still, it looked clean. Neutral, it would work. "Hey," he called to the cashier. "How much for this one?" She looked up briefly. Her face changed, not alarm exactly, but something flickered there. Uncertainty. "That one," she said slowly. $30. Just bring it back by Monday." He nodded and paid in cash. She bagged it without a word. When he turned to leave, she finally spoke again. "Don't sleep in it," she said. He frowned, sorry. She just smiled weakly. Some people forget. At home, Ethan dropped the bag on the couch and went to the fridge for a beer. The costume party was in 2 hours, but honestly, he didn't want to go. He figured he'd at least try it on, send a picture to the group chat, and use the old "I'm feeling sick" excuse. The suit felt heavier than it looked when he pulled it out, cool and pliant, like something between rubber and wet silk. It gave off a faint metallic smell, sharp but not unpleasant. He held it up. It looked simple enough, one zipper running from the back of the neck down to the lower spine. "No way this fits," he muttered. Still, he stepped in, one leg at a time. The material stretched smoothly, fitting snugly around his calves, his thighs, his torso. It felt almost warm against his skin, like it adjusted to his body temperature. When he pulled the zipper up, it glided easily, a faint metallic rasp. Then, with a soft click, it stopped at the top. He turned to check himself in the mirror and paused. It fit perfectly, too perfectly. Every line of his body defined, every seam invisible. His reflection almost looked edited. The grayish-black sheen made him look thinner, his movements smoother. For a moment, he actually smiled. "Not bad," he said. Then he reached for the zipper, and it didn't move. He tugged harder. Nothing. He turned his arm, tried again. The zipper felt like it had sealed itself in place. "Great," he muttered. "Cheap rental garbage." He went to the kitchen drawer, searching for something thin to wedge under the pull tab. He found a butter knife, slid it under the zipper. The metal met resistance, soft, then hard, like pressing against muscle under skin. He hissed as a static shock jumped to his fingers. "Son of a," he shook his hand, rubbing the sting. When he looked down again, the zipper was gone. He blinked, turned around, craned his neck. The back of the suit was smooth, seamless. The faint silver line had vanished. He stared at his reflection, heartbeat quickening. "No," he whispered. "No way." He gripped the neckline, trying to pull it open, but the material didn't stretch anymore. It held firm, as if it was his skin. Panic pricked at the edge of his thoughts. He tried to peel it from his wrist, but the texture had changed. It wasn't latex now, it was warm, slightly damp, like flesh. He stumbled into the bathroom, nearly tripping on the mat. The flickering light above the mirror gave everything a jittering motion. He grabbed the fabric, or what should have been fabric, at his throat and yanked. It didn't tear. Under the buzzing light, he saw it ripple. The surface pulsed faintly with his heartbeat. He pressed his fingers to his chest. The suit rose and fell with his breathing. When he exhaled, it exhaled with him, a faint, rubbery squeak accompanying each breath. He could feel something crawling underneath, slow and deliberate, like warmth spreading under his skin. "No," he said again, voice trembling. "No, no, no." He clawed at his forearms, digging his nails into the material. The surface reddened under pressure, just like skin would. And when he pulled back, there were faint crescent marks, but no tears, no seams. His stomach lurched. The light flickered again, and for a split second, his reflection didn't move. It just watched him. The itching started a minute later. Tiny pinpricks all over his arms, spreading across his torso. He rubbed his skin, the suit, but that made it worse. The material seemed to respond, shifting, tightening. He could feel it moving now, subtle but rhythmic, like breathing. "Oh God," he whispered, staggering backward. "What the hell is this?" The scent of metal grew stronger, mixed with something else, burnt hair. His fingers shook as he touched his neck. The suit was merging there, sinking into the base of his skin. He could feel the faint pull of it, like a suction spreading across his collarbone. He ran to the sink, grabbed the edge, and tried to steady himself. His pulse thundered in his ears. "Get off," he said, scraping at the neckline. His nails split against the surface, leaving no marks. "Get off." He grabbed the scissors from the counter and stabbed downward at his shoulder seam. The blade bent. No puncture, just a dull thunk and another static crackle. The smell thickened, ozone, burnt plastic, blood. He dropped the scissors with a clatter. His fingers were trembling uncontrollably now. His reflection looked pale, wide-eyed, except the mouth. The reflection smiled. He backed against the wall. "This isn't happening," he whispered. "I'm just hallucinating. I'm freaking out." But his chest felt tight now. He could hear his heartbeat, loud and heavy, thudding against the inside of the suit. Except it wasn't sinking right. The beat he heard was half a second off from what he felt. He looked down. The color of the suit was changing, the dark gray deepening to black. Veins of lighter shade tracing along his arms in thin, branching lines. They pulsed faintly. He screamed. He didn't even realize the sound that came out wasn't his voice. Not exactly. It was higher, thinner, hollow. He stumbled back toward the door, clawing at the handle, but his fingers were stiff. They wouldn't bend right. The material had fused between them, webbing slightly. The more he struggled, the more his joints resisted. He slammed his shoulder into the door, but his weight didn't feel like his own. He was sluggish, disconnected. The motion lagged, as though something else were deciding when his body should move. He looked in the mirror again. His reflection smiled wider. The skin, no, the suit, crawled up his neck, across his jawline, into his cheeks. His eyes blurred at the edges, the whites darkening to a dull gray. He couldn't feel his face anymore. He opened his mouth to scream again, and nothing came out but a choked wheeze. The material had reached his lips, sealing them partially. When he tried to pull at it, he felt it pull back. Minutes, maybe hours passed. He couldn't tell. The bathroom had grown unbearably warm. His breath came shallow and sharp. He tried to focus on the sound of distant traffic through the window, the muffled hum of life continuing somewhere beyond these walls. Anything but the noise close to him, the soft, wet sound of skin fusing with rubber. He felt it reach his scalp, his hair pulling taut before snapping free in clumps. Tears rolled down his cheeks, but never fell. The suit absorbed them. He pressed both palms against the sink, staring at the mirror. His reflection wasn't human anymore. Its eyes were black and glossy, its mouth stretched into something resembling a smile. Then faintly he heard a voice, his own voice. "Stop fighting," it whispered. He stumbled backward. "What?" The reflection tilted its head. "You look better this way." He shook his head violently. "No, no." The reflection's lips didn't move this time, but the voice was still in the room, everywhere. "Relax. You wore me. Now I wear you." He grabbed the scissors again, jamming them toward his neck, and stopped halfway. His arm refused to obey. The muscles locked. His fingers tightened around the handle, but his hand didn't belong to him anymore. He watched in horror as it lowered itself gently to the sink, calm, deliberate. Then his head turned on its own. Slowly, mechanically, his eyes, the eyes that were no longer fully his, met his reflection S. And then the reflection moved first. When the light finally burned out, there was silence. The next morning, sunlight seeped through the window. The bathroom door was closed. From the other side came the faint creak of floorboards, slow, measured steps. Ethan Cole left for work on time. At the office, Marcy nearly didn't recognize him at first. "You actually wore the costume," she laughed, nudging her friend. "I thought you said you hated Halloween." Ethan smiled wide, still unblinking. "It grew on me," he said. They laughed, thinking it was a joke. He sat at his desk, typing mechanically, every movement perfectly even. His skin gleamed faintly in the fluorescent light. Nobody noticed. When someone asked where he rented the costume, he smiled again. "Masquerade Memories," he said. "They've got great stuff." That evening, a different customer walked into the shop just before closing. A woman this time, looking for something unique. The cashier, the same purple-haired girl, smiled politely. "Sure," she said. "We've got all kinds." The woman's eyes scanned the racks. "What was that one I saw online? The second skin. Do you still have that?" The girl hesitated. Then, after a long pause, she nodded. "We do," she said softly. "But it's a rental only." The woman smiled. "Perfect." The cashier turned, moving toward the back room. Her voice was barely a whisper when she added, "Would you like to rent Ethan Cole? He's our most popular piece." I never used to believe the stories people whispered about my school. Every place has its urban legends, the ghost in the gym, the kid who never graduated but still roams the halls, the flickering light that S possessed. But Eastfield High wasn't the type of school for that kind of thing. It was too ordinary. Beige walls, PTA bake sales, posters about mental health stapled over peeling paint. I spent my after-school hours editing our student bulletin or recording voiceovers for my little podcast, Forgotten Halls, where I covered weird local stories, old tunnels, forgotten murals, strange teacher rumors. It started as a way to make friends without talking face to face. It became a small obsession, a space where I could sound brave, even if I was. That Friday, I was walking down the renovated West Wing, where the construction crews had finally finished replacing the lockers. Everything smelled like paint and cleaning solution. The floor tiles squeaked under my sneakers. Rows of shiny blue metal stretched perfectly in line, except for one. Locker 119. It looked older than the rest, darker, dented. The paint bubbled and flaking. The number plate was slightly crooked, like it had been reattached by hand. Every other locker door reflected the overhead LEDs like a mirror, but this one absorbed the light. I touched it without thinking. The metal was cold, not cool, but freezing like the inside of a freezer. When I pulled my hand back, a faint outline of my palm stayed on the surface, fogging and then vanishing. That's when I heard it, the faintest click, like something moving inside. I told myself it was just air pressure, maybe from the new vents. But that night, when I went home, I started researching. Our school was built in 1968, but a fire inspection report from 1976 mentioned a partial structural collapse in the West Wing. Then the record stopped. No details, no photos. The archives just jumped ahead to 1980 like those missing years never existed. I brought it up at lunch the next day. My best friend Mara rolled her eyes. Maybe they found asbestos. Not everything's a conspiracy. Then why keep one old locker? I asked. Budget cuts, she smirked. Maybe your ghost just missed the upgrade cycle. I laughed with her, but I couldn't stop thinking about that locker. So after last bell, I went back with my phone, planning to record some quick clips, maybe a spooky tick-tock. The hall was empty, except for the distant hum of the custodial machines. I started recording. Hey guys, it's Lena from Forgotten Halls. So, quick update. They redid the lockers, but one of them doesn't match. Number 119. Supposedly, it's original. Let's see what's inside. My voice sounded confident. My hands didn't feel like it. I tried pulling the handle. Locked. I leaned closer, whispering, "Creepy, right?" You can actually feel cold air coming through. That's when it clicked open. Just a fraction of an inch, but enough to make me flinch back. Inside, it smelled like old paper and something sweet, like perfume gone stale. I shone my flashlight in. A few yellowed sheets sat at the bottom. One fluttered as if caught by a breath. I picked it up. The paper was soft and damp, the ink slightly smeared. Written in perfect cursive were 5 words. See you after class, M. That night, I posted a teaser. Found a 50-year-old note in an old locker. Anyone know what M could stand for? The video got over 20,000 views by morning. Half the comments were jokes. Some said I faked it. One said, "Don't touch the note again." She writes back, "When I went back to school, locker 119 was sealed shut with a maintenance tag. Under repair, do not open." But by 4 p.m., the tag was gone. And there was another note. Same handwriting, same paper. "You found me. I didn't tell anyone this time. I just needed to understand." I stayed late again that Friday, pretending to help the yearbook team, but sneaking off to the West Wing. The building felt wrong when it was empty. Too quiet. I brought gloves and a small crowbar from the art room, just in case it locked again. When I pried the door open, it groaned like something waking up. Inside were more notes, stacked neatly now. Some were blank. Others had short phrases. "Don't be late." He told them it was an accident. It was. There was one photo, folded in half. I hesitated before opening it. It was a class picture, black and white, dated 1975. Back row, 4th from the left. A girl with long dark hair and eyes that looked almost too alive for the photo. Her name tag read, Margaret Hale. The next day, I asked Ms. Douglas, our oldest teacher, if she remembered that name. She frowned. "Margaret Hale. I haven't heard that in, oh dear. That must have been before my time." "Was there some kind of accident?" I asked. She blinked fast. "Why would you ask that?" Her voice trembled, just enough to tell me she knew. By Monday, strange things started happening in my locker. Mine was number 223, clear, on the opposite side of the school. A folded paper sat on top of my textbooks. "See you after class, M." I slammed it shut so hard the hinges rattled. During 3rd period, the announcements glitched. A burst of static. Then a voice that wasn't the principal's whispered, "Lena, open it." No one else seemed to hear. I checked the live stream archive later that night. The sound wasn't there, but my phone recorded something by itself while I was in class. A video file starting at 10:13 a.m. It showed my locker. Closed. Still. Then the door creaked open slowly, as if someone inside pushed. I didn't sleep much after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the photo. Margaret Hale's eyes weren't looking at the camera anymore. They were looking at me. I kept telling myself I was tired, stressed, maybe even hallucinating. I deleted the videos. But the next morning, they were back, renamed 119-1 MP4, 119-2 MP4, all the way to 119.6. Each showed the same thing, the locker door opening. Only the last one showed movement, a figure in the reflection. My reflection, except she smiled before I did. That afternoon, I found the janitor, Mr. Collins. He'd worked there longer than anyone else. When I asked about the old locker, he sighed. Some things shouldn't have been left behind, he said. That locker's from before the explosion. What explosion? Gas line burst. 75. Half the west wing burned before the alarms went off. One student never made it out. They sealed the hall for years. When they reopened, they left that one locker untouched. Said it was too damaged to remove. Was the student's name Margaret Hale? He stared at me, really stared. Where did you hear that? I didn't answer. He lowered his voice. That girl's body was never found. Only her locker key, still warm when they picked it up. That night, I returned one last time. I don't even know why, maybe for proof, maybe for closure. I told myself I'd just take a photo, then leave. The hallway lights flickered, buzzing like angry bees. My shadow stretched across the floor. Locker 119 stood waiting. The handle was already open. I whispered, Margaret. The air shifted warm breath against my cheek. Then, softly, you found me. I froze. My phone slipped from my hand, clattering to the floor. The flashlight beam hit the inside of the locker. There was a mirror mounted to the back panel. A cracked, warped mirror, like the kind in old dressing rooms. But my reflection wasn't right. The face was me, but not. The smile too wide, eyes too sharp. She raised her hand first. I ran. When I got home, I locked the door and checked my reflection in the hallway mirror. It looked fine, tired, pale, but mine. Until I blinked. She didn't. I threw a blanket over it and curled on the couch until sunrise. When I went back to school, locker 119 was gone. Not replaced. Gone. A clean patch of wall where it used to be. Miss Douglas said there was never a locker 119 in the new layout. Mr. Collins didn't come in that day, or ever again, apparently. They said he retired suddenly, but when I opened my own locker later, a single note sat inside. They never let me leave. It's been 3 weeks since then. The school replaced my locker. My podcast listeners keep messaging me, asking for updates. Some say they hear a second voice on my last episode. I listened back. Right before the recording cuts, there's whispering faint, but definitely there. And if you slow it down, you can hear it. See you after class, Lena. I remember the light first. That dull, flickering fluorescent glow above my desk that buzzed like a dying insect. Cold, relentless, bored of existing. It was Halloween night. I was 16. I should have been with my friends at the bonfire near Lake Pryor, not in an empty classroom filled with the smell of chalk and disinterest. But there I was in detention. all because I skipped gym class. Not exactly a crime worth haunting someone for. The clock above the door said 7 o'clock in the evening. Only 1 hour to go. There were 4 other students with me. Dylan, smirking as always. Trevor, too loud for any room. Maya, quiet and sketching skulls on her notebook. And Lee, the new girl, pale, withdrawn, with that kind of stillness that draws your eye even when you don't want to look. Mr. Hale, our supervisor, was the kind of teacher who spoke in sighs. He told us to stay put, then left to make photocopies. The door clicked shut behind him. The air hummed with the sound of electricity and boredom. The faint scent of old paper clung to everything. Somewhere in the vents, wind howled. I glanced up at the clock again. Tick, tick, tick. But something was off. The second hand stuttered. Then backward. Lee was the first to notice. "Does anyone hear that?" she whispered. The ticking came irregular now, jerking back every few beats. The second hand trembled like it was fighting against time itself. Trevor scoffed. "Guess the school can't even afford working clocks." But no one laughed. The clock lurched again, forward, backward, forward, like a heartbeat skipping. I checked my phone. 7:12. Maya's read 7:17. Dylan's screen glowed 6:54. Lee whispered, "They're all different." Something in her voice made me look at her, not what she said, but how she said it. Like she already knew this was wrong. I told myself it was nothing. Just cheap clocks, bad signal, bad lighting. But when I looked up again, the second hand had stopped moving entirely. The fluorescent tube above me flickered like a nervous pulse. Then with one soft pop, it went out. Darkness pressed against us. Someone's chair scraped the floor. Trevor muttered, "What the hell?" And then his voice cut off. The silence that followed was heavier than quiet. It had weight. It felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Then from somewhere far down the hall came a faint buzz, the backup generator kicking in. The red emergency light above the door flared to life, bleeding across the room in a dim pulse. That's when I saw it. On the chalkboard, faint letters gleamed white under the red glow. "Maya." Maya's pencil dropped. "Who did that?" she whispered. No one spoke. The chalk began to move again. Slow, deliberate strokes. Maya 7:23. Lee's voice broke through the static hum. That's the time on my phone. The chalk snapped in half with a sound too sharp, too alive. The light flickered once and went black again. When the light returned, Maya's seat was empty. Her sketchbook lay open on the floor, a half-drawn eye staring upward. Her chair leaned at a strange angle, one leg bent, like she'd stood up too quickly. "Maybe she went to the bathroom," Trevor said weakly. But her backpack was still there. Dylan tried the door, rattling the handle. "It's locked from the outside." Lee shook her head. "No, it's not locked." She stepped closer. Her hand touched the door, then froze. "It's gone." And it was. was no handle anymore, no hinge, just smooth wood. A cold sweat crawled down my neck. Outside, the wind hissed through the vents again, whispering faint, rhythmic, like breathing through a pipe. And beneath it, I swore I heard words. My name. Then on the glass of the window, written in fog, "Stay seated." Trevor laughed nervously. "Okay, seriously, who's doing this?" No one answered. The janitor's radio echoed faintly from down the corridor, static bleeding through like faraway voices trying to tune in. And then the chalkboard moved again. Trevor, 7:34. Trevor backed away. Nope, I'm done. He ran toward the window. The red light pulsed once. His motion slowed, stuttering frame by frame, like the world couldn't keep up with him. Then the air rippled. His shape blurred, smeared across the room, and vanished. Only his backpack hit the floor with a hollow thud. The room shrank. I could feel it, desks inching closer, the hum of the light deepening until it sounded like a pulse. Dylan slammed his hand against the wall. There has to be a way out. But the sound wasn't right. It didn't echo. It sank. Lee's eyes shimmered in the red light. "It's not the school anymore," she whispered. I wanted to ask what she meant, but she just stared past me at the chalkboard. Dylan, 7:42. He didn't even have time to curse. The red glow bent, folded around him like smoke swallowing fire. Then nothing. His phone dropped to the floor, still buzzing. The wall clock started spinning. Slowly at first, then faster, until the hands became a blur. My phone flickered in my hand. 7:41. 7:15 midnight 0, then blank. In the reflection of the glass, I saw movement behind me. Maya. She was standing there pale, hollow-eyed, trembling. Her mouth opened, but only static came out. That same electric hum filling the air. Her hand moved against the chalkboard. Olivia, 7:43. I backed away. No, not me. Lee grabbed my wrist. Don't move. Her fingers were ice cold. Why not? Her voice was small but certain. It marks who remembers. I stared at her. How do you know that? Her eyes darkened. Because last year I was here too. Her words froze the air. Lee's face looked older suddenly, not in wrinkles, but in grief. It happens every Halloween, she said. Different kids, same hour. The ones who wish time away. It listens. I felt dizzy, like the floor tilted. The classroom looked ancient, desks older, wood faded, initials carved by hands long gone. What happens when it ends? I asked. She looked at the board. It doesn't. The chalk squealed. Lee, 7:44. And she was gone. No scream, no sound, just a small gust of air and the faint smell of chalk. Silence. The hum of the emergency light was the only heartbeat left. The room seemed to breathe, walls pulsing slightly, shadows stretching too far. I was the last one. Every desk around me was covered in dust. Initials I didn't recognize carved deep into the wood. The names felt wrong, like echoes of kids who'd sat here before. The window outside showed both night and dawn, flickering between them every few seconds. I reached for the door. The surface felt soft, almost alive, like pressing into cold skin. Then the chalkboard whispered again. Olivia, 7:45. I screamed and scrubbed at the letters until my sleeve turned white with chalk. No, you're not taking me. The chalk moved beneath my hand. You asked for it. And then I remembered whispering earlier that day, I just want this day to be over. And it heard me. The red light flared. The glass in the clock shattered outward, frozen shards suspended in midair. A sound rose low and electric, halfway between a scream and static. Desks slid inward across the floor, screeching until they circled around me. Papers lifted into the air, spinning faster and faster until everything dissolved into white noise. I tried to close my eyes, but something time, maybe, forced them open. The world collapsed inward, and then silence, a soft hum, light returned. I blinked, staring at the classroom around me. Everything was exactly where it had been when detention began. The clock read 7 o'clock. Maya doodled in her notebook. Trevor leaned back in his chair. Dylan scrolled through his phone. Lee sat quietly beside me, as if nothing had happened. Mr. Hale walked in with a stack of papers. Sorry about the blackout. Power's back. Everyone okay? No one spoke. I glanced up at the clock again. 7 o'clock sharp. The same as before. He unlocked the door, apologized again, and told us we could go. We all stood, chairs scraping. No one looked at one another. Outside, the hallway lights buzzed softly. I felt air again, real air. For a second, I almost convinced myself I'd dreamed it, until I turned back toward the classroom. On the whiteboard behind Mr. Hale were our names, written neatly in dry erase marker. 5 of them. Then I blinked. 4. Maya, Trevor, Dylan, Olivia. And for the life of me, I couldn't remember who was missing. When I was 12, my world was small, just our cul-de-sac and the woods behind it. Every evening that summer, the air smelled like mowed grass and citronella candles. The streetlights buzzed early, and the pavement held onto the day's heat long after the sun sank. There were 5 of us who played together back then. Me, Ellie, Ryan, twins Jess and Mark, and little Noah from 2 houses down. We were the last generation of kids who still played outside after dark, still believed that flashlights could keep monsters away. Hide and seek was our favorite, especially at dusk. The street became our world, fences, hedges, garages, and the big oak tree by the park as our base. That tree was ancient. Its roots cracked the sidewalk, its bark carved with initials that went back decades. We said If you pressed your ear to the trunk, you could hear the heart of the neighborhood beating inside. That's how kids talk, turning everything ordinary into magic. That night was supposed to be our last game before school started. Ellie suggested we make it epic. One final round that went until everyone was found, no matter how long it took. I remember laughing at that. What if it never ends? I said. Ellie just grinned, flashlight under her chin. Then we play forever. I didn't know she meant it. It started normally. We all gathered around the oak, still sticky from popsicles, our voices overlapping as the sky dimmed to violet. Ryan volunteered to be it first. He covered his eyes and started counting. 1, 2, 3. We scattered, our sneakers thudding on the pavement. I dove behind a neighbor's trash bins, crouched low, giggling under my breath. From somewhere nearby, I heard Ellie shush Noah, whispering, "They'll hear you." The smell of cut grass mixed with something earthy, wet dirt, almost metallic. The sound of counting echoed, slower than usual. 8, 9, 10. Then silence. I peeked around the bin. The street looked empty, still glowing orange under the lamps. A shape darted past, small, quick, heading toward the tree. Too fast to see clearly. I thought it was Ryan, but the way it moved didn't look right. It looked like someone smaller, like a shadow that had gotten detached. When Ryan shouted, "Ready or not, here I come," I exhaled in relief. Game on. He found Jess first. She always hid behind the same car. Then Mark, then Noah under a porch. Their laughter carried across the street, bright and real. But Ellie didn't come out. After 15 minutes, Ryan yelled, "Ellie, you win. Come on out." No answer. We all started searching, flashlights slicing through yards and bushes. The laughter died. Ellie had always been the best hider, but she'd never stayed quiet this long. When I passed by the oak tree, I noticed fresh scratches carved into the bark, deeper than the initials. 4 vertical lines, like claw marks. My stomach twisted. I told myself maybe she'd gone home. Maybe she was trying to scare us. That was the last time I lied to myself that night. We gathered by the oak again, breathing hard, mosquito bites dotting our legs. "She probably went inside," Jess said, brushing hair from her face. "Her mom's strict." Ryan nodded, but he looked uneasy. "She'd have told us. She always tells us." I looked down and saw something half buried near the roots, a flashlight. Pink handle, Ellie's. Still warm. I picked it up, flicked it on. The beam stuttered, then went out completely. "Battery's dead," I muttered. Mark squinted at me. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" He turned toward the woods. The faintest sound drifted out, soft, drawn out, like someone whispering numbers. 1, 2, 3. It was Ellie's voice. Only it was coming from the trees. We should have gone home right then, told our parents, called someone, but we were 12, stupidly brave. Ryan said, "Let's check the woods. Maybe she's messing with us." So we went, 5 flashlights bobbing between the trunks, the smell of damp leaves growing stronger. The counting got louder, then stopped. "Ellie," I called, "it's not funny anymore." Something rustled behind a tree. My beam caught a glimpse of movement, a foot disappearing behind bark. We ran toward it, but when we got there, the space was empty. Only the ground was disturbed, 2 sets of footprints. One Ellie's, small and barefoot, the other smaller and wrong, like the toes pointed backward. We searched for over an hour. Jess started crying. Ryan tried to act brave, but his voice shook when he called out her name. Every now and then, we heard the counting start up again. Always faint, always moving. 7, 8, 9. Then silence. We'd yell for Ellie, and the voice would stop, like it was listening. At one point, Noah whispered, "What if someone else is playing?" We all froze. "What do you mean?" I asked. He pointed toward the deeper part of the woods. His flashlight shook. There. For a moment, we all saw it. A small figure standing just beyond the reach of our lights. It looked like a kid, same size as Ellie, except its arms hung too low, and its head tilted like it was curious. Then it blinked, not eyes exactly, but movement, like the world hiccuped, and it was gone. The twins screamed. Ryan grabbed my arm. "We're leaving," he said. But when we turned back, the path we'd come from wasn't there. Just trees, endless trees. We followed the sound of the wind until we stumbled onto a clearing. The oak tree stood there, the same one from the park. It shouldn't have been possible. The base, the roots, even the initials, all of it. And carved fresh into the trunk, ELLIE. I ran forward, heart pounding. My palm touched the bark, rough, damp. Then something cold brushed my hand. Fingers, small. I yanked back, flashlight trembling. No one there. Ryan's voice cracked. "We have to go now." But before we could move, a whisper floated around us, low and rhythmic, like someone standing just behind each of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The counting overlapped, hundreds of voices now. Children's voices. We turned in circles, beams slicing empty air. Then faintly, someone tapped the tree trunk. Tap, tap, tap. Base. Something had just reached base. The clearing exploded in panic. Flashlights whipped around, catching glimpses of movement, pale faces, flickers of limbs, eyes too wide. Jess bolted first, screaming. The twins vanished into the dark. Ryan grabbed my wrist, pulling me along. This way. Branches whipped at our faces as we ran. I could hear footsteps all around us. Too many, too close. Something brushed my neck. Cold, damp. I didn't look back. We burst through the trees and into the park again. Somehow, impossibly. The streetlights glowed, empty swings creaking in the wind. Ryan stopped, doubled over, gasping. "Where's everyone?" I panted. He shook his head. "I don't know, I don't." Then we heard it again. the oak, someone was back at base. We turned slowly. Standing there, one hand on the trunk, was Ellie, her head tilted to the side, hair hanging over her face. "Ellie," I shouted, "we thought." She looked up. Her eyes were wrong, too dark, and her mouth moved slowly, like she was remembering how to speak. "Your turn to hide," she said. Ryan stumbled back. "What?" "Your turn." Then she smiled too wide, too slow, and lifted her hand. It was Ellie's hand anymore. The fingers were thin, gray, bent backward. She tapped the tree again. "Base." I don't remember running. I just remember the noise. Leaves crunching, Ryan shouting, the world spinning. When I finally stopped, I was back on my street, porch lights flickering. The others weren't there. I stood under the lamplight until my mom came out, scolding me for being out so late. I tried to tell her about Ellie, about the woods, but the words wouldn't come out right. The police searched for weeks. They found Ryan's flashlight near the park, cracked. The twins said they'd made it home, but didn't remember how. Ellie's house stayed empty that winter. For sale signs came and went. Everyone said she must have run away. But sometimes, at night, I'd hear it again through my window. 1, 2, 3. Years passed. I moved away, tried to forget. But every summer, around the same date, I'd dream of that night. Of the oak tree standing in places it didn't belong, on my street, in my backyard, behind my school. Always the same voice counting. When I turned 25, I came back to Brookhaven. The park was still there. The tree too, though smaller somehow, like it had been dying from the inside. I walked up to it, tracing the old carvings. My name was still there, next to Ellie's, and below it new letters, rough and fresh. "Let's play again." That night, as I unpacked in my parents' old house, I got a message request on my phone. The name Elizabeth P. My heart stopped. The profile picture was blurry. A group of kids in the dark, flashlights glowing. 6 figures instead of 5. The message read, "Ready or not." I dropped the phone. From the kitchen came a soft, rhythmic tapping. I turned, every hair on my neck standing up. The window was open, curtains breathing in the wind. Outside, under the streetlight, stood a small figure with a flashlight. "Here I come," she whispered. "People say we grow out of our childhood fears. But the truth is, we just stop playing long enough for something else to take our place." Every time I hear children outside at dusk, counting, laughing, I check the trees. Because sometimes, when the light fades just right, I see her. A small girl standing by the base, smiling through the dark, waiting for someone to say, "Your turn." And I never do, not anymore, because I know what happens when the game starts again. That's Justin behind me, holding the light. Miranda's on sound, which means she's holding my phone and freaking out already. Miranda off mic. If we die here, delete my search history. Amanda laughing, promise. We parked behind the old cinema entrance, the only spot without boards nailed over the doors. The wind rattled the sign, letters missing, so it read W space SD Ridge Mall. The parking lot was cracked and overgrown, weeds curling through the pavement like veins. Inside, the air hit me first, stale but weirdly sweet, like old air freshener trying to cover rot. The flashlight beam caught dust hanging in the air like snow. My sneakers crunched glass. Somewhere above, a fluorescent bulb hummed weakly to life, then died. This place is massive, Justin said, panning his light. Creepy, but kind of cool. I turned the camera on myself, wide grin. Guys, this is literally YouTube gold. One night, one haunted mall. Maybe we'll find an old hot topic still selling band tees from 2008. I tried to keep my tone bright, the way I practiced, upbeat, fearless. But my chest was tight. The silence wasn't right. The kind of silence that listened back. We walked past shuttered stores, or what should have been shuttered. But the next corner made me stop. The lights flickered on bright, white, humming overhead. The hallway stretched ahead spotless, every storefront clean and glowing. Window displays glittered. Clothing racks were full. Only the skylights above were shattered. And yet sunlight, no light, still filtered through. Warm and fake as a studio set. Wait, Miranda whispered. Why's the power still on? It's not, I said, but my voice faltered. The PA crackled. Thank you for shopping with us. I felt every hair on my arms rise. We should have left right then. But I lifted my phone and smiled. This is so weird, guys, look. The stores look open. The red record light blinked. Stay cool, I told myself. Be fearless. Be viral. That's when I noticed the mannequins. They weren't wearing early 2000s clothes like I expected. No graphic tees, no flared jeans. They wore the stuff I saw online last week. My favorite brands drop, exact pieces. And one, front and center, wore the same leather jacket I had on. I laughed it off. Creepy coincidence, right? But the jacket was zipped halfway. Sleeves rolled the way I always did. Even the frayed cuff looked identical. We followed the sound of music, faint pop songs, warped and slowed, echoing like a mall playlist stuck on repeat. A fake scent filled the air, vanilla and cinnamon. There's no way, Justin muttered. This stuff smells fresh. We passed a candle store. Its shelves were fully stocked, wicks unburned. The open sign glowed. I pressed my hand against the glass. Cold, real clean. Inside, something moved. Not fast, just a shift in shadow. Hello. The door handle turned easily. The bell above it rang. Inside, the air was thick, humid, sweet. I picked up a candle. Vanilla Dream, the label said. I unscrewed the lid, still sealed. The wax looked untouched. The hum of fluorescent lights overhead deepened, low like a growl. When I turned back, every mannequin in the store had turned toward me. So, the mannequins kinda moved. Not like horror movie moved, but they weren't facing that way before, right? Justin. He aimed the light. Their faces were smooth plastic, except one. Its features were half finished, like someone had started sculpting it and stopped. I leaned in and realized the shape of its nose and jaw looked almost like mine. Miranda's voice trembled. "Let's go." The PA crackled again. "Mall hours are now over. Please make your way to the exits." It repeated, distorted, slower each time. "Mall hours are now over. Mall hours are now over." We ran. The mall changed as we moved. Halls that led one direction looped back. Signs flickered, food court, pointing both ways. The escalators groaned, shuddered, then lurched into motion for 3 steps before freezing again. My phone battery dropped from 70% to 9% in seconds. The timestamp glitched, showing dates from 2008. "Is this a prank?" Justin said, breathing hard. "You said this was abandoned." "It is," I snapped. But then the speakers spoke again, louder this time, every syllable sharp. "Thank you for shopping with us, Amanda." The others stopped. "What did it just say?" Miranda whispered. I stared at the nearest mannequin. It was smiling now. We tried breaking a window. The glass wouldn't crack. It just rippled under impact like water. Every store we passed showed us again. Mannequins posed mid-recording, mid-smile, holding cameras. My reflection in a display wasn't right. It lagged. When I waved, it smiled a second too late. Hours passed, or minutes. The phone clock spun random numbers. Justin wanted to split up to find another exit. I told him no, but he went anyway. His flashlight beam vanished behind a corner. The PA whispered, "Clean up on aisle 4. I ran after him, but the hall stretched longer and longer. The sound of footsteps echoed, too many for just us. When I turned the corner, Justin's light lay on the floor, still on. His bag was beside it. And there, in the display window, stood a new mannequin wearing his hoodie. His face. The mouth was open slightly, caught mid-shout. "Miranda's gone. I don't know how." I turned, and she wasn't there. The camera keeps starting by itself. It's like it's recording me. Beep, click. Recording tone returns, forced upbeat. "Hey guys, weird night, huh? We're still exploring, everything's fine. We think the lights are motion activated, so they turn on when we walk past. Totally normal." My voice sounded bright, perfect, confident. I didn't remember saying any of it. When I played it back, I heard another voice layered under mine, same tone, but not quite right. I tried the exit doors again. They opened to the same hallway. I slammed them, screamed. The echo came back wrong, like someone else screaming half a second later. The air pulsed. The hum of lights deepened until it became a heartbeat. The vanilla smell thickened, cloying. I felt it coating my tongue. From every direction came a soft shuffle. Fabric, plastic, skin. Mannequins, dozens, walking. I ran into the food court. Tables perfectly clean. Every stall lit. Fryers bubbling with oil that wasn't real. Behind the counter, figures moved in sync. Heads snapping toward me when the camera light flickered. They looked human until they smiled, teeth sculpted from glossy resin, gums the color of wax. The P a cut in again. Customer assistance requested in the atrium. That's when I saw me standing by the fountain, holding my phone, smiling. She raised her hand and waved. I felt something cold slide through my mind, like static. My vision doubled. Every mannequin's face flickered through mine, their features reshaping, reassembling. I shouted, "Who's recording this?" A dozen voices answered, perfectly in sync. "You are." The escalator's moving again. I think I see light upstairs. I'm going up. If anyone finds this, don't come here. Don't look for me. Each step vibrated. The air grew thicker. The walls gleamed like new paint. I reached the top and saw sunlight, bright, artificial sunlight, pouring from skylights now unbroken. Every store window showed me again. Dozens of me, smiling, perfect, mannequin still. The PA's voice softened. "Congratulations, Amanda. You've been promoted to permanent display." The camera slipped from my hand. For a few seconds, only faint breathing and the buzz of lights. Then silence. Months later, the police at the site. The device was recovered near the east atrium of West Ridge Mall during demolition. No human remains were found. The interior appeared inexplicably preserved, showing no signs of decay. The power system was disconnected in 2008. Shortly after recovery, all footage on the device corrupted except for a 14-second clip. A mannequin wearing a black leather jacket stands before the camera. It raises a hand. Its mouth moves. Audio transcript. "Hey guys, it's Amanda, welcome back." And the P announcement. West Ridge Mall reopening soon, under new management. This is Riley. It's October 31st, or I guess technically November 1st. I don't know what time it is. I had to record this. I keep watching the video, and it doesn't make sense. It's like my reflection. No, it's not even me anymore. I know how it sounds, but I didn't edit it. None of us did. If you found this recording, you probably saw the video already. The mirror challenge. Yeah, that one. A pause, a click of a lighter, breathing steadies. I wish we never pressed record. We were supposed to be filming something stupid. Just a Halloween sleepover. 5 of us crammed into Leela's house because her parents were out of town. She wanted to make a viral short for her channel. 5 teens summoned their reflections at 3 a.m. I was the cameraman, like always. There was Leela the ringleader. She wore fake vampire fangs and glow-in-the-dark eyeliner. Devin, her boyfriend, kept cracking jokes about demons. Bree had brought her tarot deck like it made her legit psychic. And Chris, who pretended he didn't care, but kept checking his hair in the mirror every 10 seconds. Then there was me. Riley. I didn't want to be on camera. I never did. I liked staying behind it, controlling the story. You don't get blamed for anything when you're the one filming. The setup was simple. The mirror challenge. You say your full name backward 3 times in the dark, and your reflection's supposed to move on its own. It's a dumb urban legend, half TikTok dare, half campfire story. Leela said it was perfect for engagement. We'll stage some creepy stuff in editing, she said. Riley, make it look glitchy when we cut. Only it didn't need any editing. We ran the shower to fog up the bathroom mirror. The air turned heavy, humid, like breathing through a wet towel. The tiles were slick under our socks. Someone's phone charger glowed red by the sink, and the hallway light bled in just enough to make the mirror shine dull silver. The smell hit me first, like hairspray and steam mixed with something faintly metallic. I figured it was the old pipes. We laughed a lot at first. You can hear it in the video. The kind of laughter that's more about nerves than fun. Then we turned the lights off. The first round was supposed to be harmless. Devin went first, of course. He said his name backward, slow and dramatic. Moved, moved, moved. Everyone laughed when nothing happened. Then Leela tried. Ali, 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 she said into the mirror. The reflection flickered just for a second, like a video buffering. Devin swore he saw her lips move out of sync. I thought it was just the steam shifting. The camera picked up static right after that. I didn't hear it in person, only on playback. A soft whisper under the noise, almost like the word stay. Then Bree went. She looked nervous, but tried to play it off, rolling her eyes as she whispered, "Earb, earb, earb." When she finished, condensation started forming words across the mirror. I thought it was coincidence until I saw what it spelled. E-E-R-B. Her backward name. The laughter died. We all stared, waiting for someone to admit they did it, but nobody moved. Devin wiped at the fog, but his handprint didn't smear the letters. It was like they were carved into the steam. Chris went next. I didn't want him to, but he said, "Surik, Surik, Surik." The reflection shimmered again, 3 flashes in sync with the words, and the phone's flashlight dimmed like something was draining it. I turned the camera toward myself to check the battery. It was still full. When I looked back, Chris's reflection was smiling. Only Chris was. "Dude," I said, my voice shaking on the audio. "You're not smiling." He frowned. "What are you talking about?" Bree screamed. The reflection didn't move when he turned his head. It just kept staring, grinning, teeth too white. Then the mirror fogged up completely, hiding everything behind it. The air went still. The only sound was water dripping from the shower head. And then Devon laughed again. "Nice try, guys," he said, but his voice cracked. No one was filming anymore. Everyone's flashlights pointed toward the mirror, shaking. That's when Leela said, "Riley, it's your turn." I said no, but they chanted anyway, half nervous, half forcing me to join in. "Riley, Riley." It's on the recording. You can hear me sigh, mutter a curse, and step forward. My voice sounds tired. I didn't want to give the mirror a reason to react, so I said it fast. "Yellier, yellier, yellier." The glass stayed fogged for a moment, then cleared right where my reflection's face would be. Only it wasn't my face. It looked like me, but wrong. The eyes were too wide, the mouth too small, and behind it, something like movement, like someone else standing in the same space. Devon whispered, "Did you guys hear that?" On the recording, you can hear faint breathing. Two patterns, one slow, one rapid, but only I was standing in front of the mirror. Then the reflection blinked. I didn't. I stumbled backward, and the flashlight beam hit the mirror just right. For one split second, there were 6 reflections, 5 of us, and one behind mine, taller, darker, smiling with teeth that weren't shaped like anyone's I knew. The camera glitched. The feed filled with static. When it cleared, the reflection was gone. So was Chris. We called out for him, but the bathroom door had shut. Devon yanked it open, and the hallway was empty. Chris's shoes were still there, wet footprints leading nowhere. The mirror fogged again. Bree started crying. Leela kept filming even though her hands were shaking. "We'll find him," she said, voice quivering. "He probably ran off." But the mirror started showing something, static shapes forming behind the fog. At first, I thought it was just our reflections reappearing, but it was. The figures were reversed, out of sync, mouths moving at the wrong times. Then Chris's reflection stepped forward. It wasn't him. It was like the mirror had made its own version. The grin was wider now, stretching too far, and when the condensation slid down the glass, it looked like blood. Devon shouted, "Enough, it's fake," and threw his phone at the mirror. The glass didn't break. The phone just hit it and fell, screen flashing red for a moment before turning off. The reflection looked down at it, then back up. Then it raised its hand and pressed its palm against the glass. The mirror bulged outward, like water pressing from the other side. Bree screamed. Leela dropped the camera, and it hit the tile with a sharp crack. I grabbed her arm, yelling for everyone to get out, but the door slammed shut again, sealing us inside. The air turned freezing cold. The steam disappeared. Every surface gleamed slick and dark, and I swear I could see movement beneath the tiles, like shadows sliding under glass. "Riley," Leela whispered, "look." The condensation on the mirror was tracing letters again. This time it spelled Riley. Backward. I stepped back, heart pounding so hard I felt sick. My reflection didn't move. It tilted its head, then lifted its hand like it was touching the inside of the mirror. The surface rippled. My phone started recording on its own. The light from the screen made everything red. In that glow, I saw my reflection grin, the same wrong grin as before, and it whispered something I couldn't hear. Then the mirror reached out. I can't describe it right. It didn't break or crack. It just folded open like peeling skin. A hand came through, cold, wet, and warm all at once, like touching something alive but dying. It grabbed my wrist. I screamed. Devin pulled me back, but when he did, my reflection stayed, still holding my wrist from the other side, like the mirror was two places at once. The glass pulsed, rippled, and then it swallowed him. Devin disappeared. Just gone. 1 second he was pulling me, the next his arm was gone, and his reflection was standing perfectly still, eyes wide open, mouth twisted in a silent scream. Leela dropped to her knees. Bree was shaking, whispering prayers under her breath. I tried the door again, locked. My reflection's hand pressed against the inside of the mirror, same position as mine. Then it smiled. Everything went black. When I woke up, the lights were on. The mirror was cracked down the center, steam still drifting from the shower. Leela and Bree were in the corner, hugging each other, whispering. Chris and Devin were gone. The camera was still rolling, half submerged in water. The recording ends there abruptly, mid-breath. But when we uploaded it later, the file wasn't damaged. In fact, it looked perfect. Too perfect. The footage shows all of us laughing, then cuts right after I say my name backward. But there's no screaming, no mirror cracking, just 5 reflections smiling even after we turn away. Leela insisted it was the best footage she'd ever gotten. It's creepy as hell, she said. We'll post it for Halloween. I told her not to. I begged her not to. But she posted it anyway. It went viral overnight. 2.3 million views in 12 hours. Comments called it too realistic, best acting ever, hauntingly edited. Some people said they could hear whispering if they slowed it down. Others claimed to see movement in the background. Then the freeze frames started circulating. People began noticing something we hadn't. In the final seconds, when the flashlight flickers, there are 5 reflections in the mirror, not 4. The 5th one, mine, was looking straight into the camera. I've watched that clip 100 times. The reflection moves just a split second after me, like it's lagging. And then, right before the video cuts out, its mouth opens and whispers something. I couldn't hear it before, but someone posted a reversed version online, slowed down, enhanced. It says, "Let me out." Since then, strange things keep happening. Bree's gone silent, deleted all her social media, stopped answering calls. Leela won't talk to me, but she keeps uploading new videos, each one glitchier than the last. The bathroom mirror in my house fogs up on its own sometimes. Always around 3 a.m., I've stopped using it. But I swear, every time I walk by, there's a faint print on the glass, like someone pressed their hand there from the inside. The last time it happened, I wiped it off. But when I turned off the lights, the handprint came back, glowing faintly red under my phone's LED. I don't know if it's real anymore. Maybe we all hallucinated. Maybe it was a trick of light. But every time I blink, I see that smile, the one that wasn't mine. And in the video, at exactly 4:13, if you pause right before the cut, you can see me standing behind myself. I tried deleting the video. It just re-uploads itself. Every time. Different account, same title, the mirror challenge. Thousands of new comments. People tagging their friends, saying they're gonna try it too. If you're listening, don't look in the mirror tonight. Don't say your name backward. Don't even joke about it. Because it's not the reflection that comes for you. It's what's left behind when you stop looking.
As always, thanks for listening. Sleep tight, shadows.